This is an SM Media production. Hi, folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media Road to Cheltenham 2024. I'm Scott McPike. It's always a pleasure to be your host, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin.
Hi there, yeah, all good. Another week closer to the big week, so really dawning in now. Almost handicap entries time. So yeah, there's plenty to look forward to.
There isn't as many horses to recap on, but I would say we've probably got a few big clues as to where certain horses are at, preferably horses that we've kind of been bumped with in the past. But it's good to see like certain horses that we'll discuss kind of back to some form of their best form.
Yeah, I mean, Edwardstone and Shishkin were entitled to win Saturday, and they went off fairly decent prices for the
Yeah.
level of opposition they were going against. So yeah, Saturday all round was a pretty good punting day. I think quite a few would have went up on that day, which should gives a bit of confidence ahead of the spring festivals.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll speaking of Shishkin, we'll start with our fan questions. We'll start with the first one. Is Shishkin the most likely horse to beat Galloping Deschamps in the Gold Cup?
Um, Went on song probably. So the thing is with Shishkin is, I mean, that's probably why he went off, a decent price in the end. He's not a horse you could kind of fully trust in, but what he does have is tons of back class, and he's finishing out his races really well. And yeah, he can run to mid 170s quite comfortably. So that on raw figures and form and his best, it probably puts him clear second best. I think the angle to oppose Galloping Deschamps is the nature of the race and stealth by numbers. You've got plenty of opponents there. Faster Slow could get closer. Jerry Colombe could be a different proposition at Cheltenham than he is at Leopardstown, which is a track that he'd never seen before. And Gordon Elliott's tend not to run too well over Christmas. They tend to be maybe a bit better over here. Lahome Press is out this weekend, who has good classy back form, and you've got like Gentleman's Game and Brave Man's Game, and Hewitt, the King George winner, Corrit Ramble, the Grand National winner. They all have something to find against them, but they're all there, and they all seem to be taking a firm grip. So there's going to be some serious opponents here, and if he is off the boil, one of them's going to run to a good level at least. So yeah, and it's a Gold Cup. It can be a grueling grind. A lot can go wrong. You jump the fences, and you do need a bit of luck in running, regardless of how good you are. So yeah, well, Shishkin I think has to be near the top of the list in terms of taking him on. You're probably better off just laying the favourite and getting a very good field to run against him if you want to take him on like that.
The thing I've got with Shishkin is right. He's 8-1 Ante post and 7-1 no bet. He's going to go with thing 8-1. You would make the argument with a horse of that class. It's a brilliant each way bet, but there's so many if buts and maybes before you even think of an each way play. So I think he's a perfect example this year. I would quite like to see. He's probably the horse against Galloping Deschamps. I would like to see kind of battle. I think that'd be interesting if those two were jumping the last together. I think that could go either way if they both jump the last soundly. But are you willing to take 2-1 that he's going to be in the frame going to the last? It's a difficult situation. I
He
just don't
does
know.
seem rather boomer bust, doesn't he? A
That's the
little bit.
thing, yeah. And he never ever used to be like that. To be fair, he used to be very consistent, very flashy. It was up at probably you would say obviously the Clarence House, but he's he's found it like do you know it was last year getting into the Ascot chase. You were thinking right if he gets anywhere near back to his best, he's gonna be good. Bolts up in the Ascot chase, then doesn't win the Ryanair. So it kind of shows you where he's at as in terms of a horse that he can be very good like was in the Denman chase. But is that enough to say right? Let's put everything on him in the Gold Cup. I'm not sure, and that's where I'm kind of struggling with him.
Yeah, he was going to win at Kempton as well, wasn't he? In the King George.
Yeah,
Yeah, the thing for him is, that, I mean, he'll be better and better around. His jumping was still sticky the last day. He's still good enough to kind of get through that. He's not straightforward. He still isn't. Even though he was a bit better the weekend. He does take a lot of kind of chipping along, getting away. I mean, Hitman was coming, breezing alongside him, for instance. That wouldn't have happened back in the day. He's fended off protecting that quite well. He readily finds more. He definitely keeps a little bit more up himself. You'd be a bit worried about maybe some of the prep that he's had. Nicky Henderson's last couple of runners, Chantry House, Champ, they were completely caught out in the first circuit. That could happen to him. I think you'd have to be pretty mindful of that on the day if siding with him, that it could get a little bit it could be a bit too searching early doors for him, and find out he's got to kind of maintain a kind of prominent position to keep pitching in there and having a chance. You can see him kind of look at the Ryanair last year. He was belting them all, and then he's actually done really well to finish. Within a couple of the eventual winner, because he was completely all at sea for most of that. You're just kind of wondering if that early relentless first mile, there'll be plenty of kind of decent kind of pace setters that could catch him out a little bit, and it could be a bit of a culture shock, and he might sulk and chuck it quite quickly. So yeah, while he wouldn't quite be for me, I can see why people might take the chance on him.
Next question: Who in your mind is the best value Grade 1 favourite for the festival at the present moment?
Tia Hooper in the Stairs.
Certainly
with this talk of an Irish Point going champion hurdle. The Gordon Elliott's latest comments, and then you've only going to get Crambo that's shortening, and he was all out to beat Paisley Park, who's 12. So Tia Hooper can run it into mid 160s, and that could be enough to win. Don't think Xavier Hard will stay, and the rest are pretty exposed in behind, and but in an ocean of odds-on favourites, him at 3-1 isn't bad.
I was kind of going to go Ballyburn at 6-5. I think a shade of odds. I think a shade of odds against in the Supreme, because I don't think anything beats him if he's anywhere near his best. So, and while we've still got the thing of where will he go, where will he not go, I think it's more likely to go Supreme. Just for the sake, I think it's probably something we need to dissect as a whole, because I think it leaves the Baring Bingham wide open in terms of what Mullins goes with. But right now, I would say Ballyburn, and I know he's odds on, but I think you look at Sergino at 4-5. I think Sergino's unbeatable, to be honest. I think Sergino's the banker of the week.
He does look levels above his opposition, but with juvenile hurdles, he can improve at different rates, but he does look different class of them. Ballyburn, it seems more likely he's going to run the Supreme.
I'll ask you another question. How many of the odds-on favourites will be a bigger price on the day?
Pretty much all of them, I would say.
Yeah. And that's kind of the same every year. I think I'm surprised nobody cottons on to this. We were doing this last year, where horses were like 4-6, and then they were going off even money on the day.
Bookmakers will go after one on the day. Particularly when they've got the fields and the full information, they won't run scared. They might run scared. They'll say like, a lost mouth if all three. If your big Ballyburns win and Constitution Hills win before that, then maybe those prices will kind of stay towards the end. But yeah, I mean, that probably won't even apply for favourites. I think 90% of what you've got on offer now will be bigger on the day, without a doubt.
Right, next question. We're into kind of preview night season. We're already getting announcements of certain preview nights. What would be your ultimate preview night lineup? One pundit, one jockey, one trainer. Go, and the two of us, obviously, I would imagine. I think we'd be box office for ourselves.
Yes, the most qualified us. No, I don't think so. Pundit probably Ruby Walsh. Yeah, I do. I think all round, he's very assured, isn't he? Jockey, I would maybe take kind of a middle rank one that might have more of an opinion. Maybe like a Darrow Keefe, something like that. Because jockeys don't tend to tell you much at the best of times. Sometimes, so maybe some riders that aren't in the races that might have a bit more kind of a say or opinion things. And trainer wise, yeah, between Gordon Elliott or Paul Nicholls, because I think they tell you a bit more than most of them. So yeah, well, one of those two.
Yeah, I would kind of go along with your pundit shit. I think Ruby's probably the most informative. I know he can kind of be quite guarded sometimes, but I think Ruby, if we were going for a kind of pundit in terms of someone like kind of an expert kind of thing, yeah, I'd probably look at likes of Kevin Blake, Tony Keane, and somebody like that.
Hmm.
Jockey, I quite like Cobden the way he comes across sometimes. Like, see when he's getting interviewed after
Hmm.
races, he's probably less guarded than a lot of the rest. Trainer, probably Shark Hanlon just for the crack.
Hewitt can win, and that's it.
Yeah, but I
I
think
should, I should, I should have said Shark Hanlon as well, given my history with Hewitt this
yeah,
season. Yeah,
yeah,
just talk about Hewitt, I might forget about
yeah,
Chell.
yeah. But as I say, preview nights are coming up, and I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. Right, let's move on to the recap for the week. Right, Callum, we will start on Saturday at Newbury. We've already discussed Shishkin in terms of how he can be a threat to the Gold Cup. What was it about Saturday that impressed you for him? And do you really think that was enough of a performance to say he's a Gold Cup contender?
Yeah, I think it was a decent performance. I think he's probably running to about, maybe just about 170 there. He's put Protectorate away
Mm-hmm.
in an easier manner than maybe the home press did at Lingfield. Yeah, you've got to kind of do that if you want to be a legitimate bona fide Gold Cup contender, and he did. Yeah, he doesn't travel quite kindly. I'd be interested to see if they do kind of try and go for cheap pieces again, because they might help him travel kindly, but it's always in the back of your mind that when they did put him on, he refused to race, but apparently that was down to freshness rather than the cheap pieces. So it would be a big gamble to kind of take that kind of risk in a Gold Cup where he's still winning in spite of that. The way he finds from the last of the line, I think, it's always impressive. He seems to see out his races really well, and that offers real hope for the Gold Cup trip and up the hill. He was sustaining 30 mile an hour down the running quite well. But yeah, I mean, Hitman was breezing alongside him though, and Protector that was kind of still thereabouts, and you're thinking, is he going to go through with it? You're still going to have that question at various points through at Cheltenham. So it's 7-8 to 1 now. He's going to give you. He's going to give you, heart palpitations all the way around, though, isn't he? Whether
Of
he
course,
wins or not, and at that price, I think you need to. I think you realistically, I think you need to see double figures to really genuinely entertain him. But he's not without a chance, and he adds a decent layer of intrigue to the race.
we'll move into the game spirit. It was won by Edwardstone, won by 40 lengths. Really just kind of jumped well and kind of had everything well. It was a good day for Alan King, actually. The Emmy Tom won as well. Edwardstone, he's not going to beat El Fabiolo. He's probably not even going to beat John Bond, but we know he's going to go, and that means at least 3 runners in the champion chase.
Yeah, and Captain Guinness will be there, won't he? And horses like that. So it's not going to cut up dreadfully. You probably get six. So, Elixir de Nuts will probably have to take his chance. Horses like that will go. And yeah, this was a good performance. And front running, it's prominent. Just being the best horse,
Yeah.
buck out and make all and kind of show your class. They've tried to kind of settle them unsuccessfully all season, and that seems a bit better. I don't think they're going to be that aggressive champion chase day, but you'd imagine him being handy. He might kind of tactically put it up to John Bon a little bit in terms of how aggressively ridden that he'll need to be. So yeah, while it was just a nice kind of return to form, and it was a bit of a penalty kick beforehand. I thought he was the best horse in the race, and he was ridden as if he was the best horse in the race, and that's what the end result was. But he tactically puts a decent layer on it. He looks third best. He could beat John Bon if John Bon doesn't come back.
Yeah.
The decent level. He's a mid 160s horse of his day, and John Bon's only just hitting 170 at his pomp at the moment. So he has won an Arkle. He's just about 10, and he should be a little bit too exposed to actually win this. But it was a nice welcome return to form. Alan King's yard are in better form. Apparently, he's put more work into them, ran them up the hill 3 times, and that's kind of made a little bit of difference. So yeah, he merits a little bit of respect in him taking his chance, particularly if he's in peak form like that.
The Betfair Hurdle was won by Iberico Lord, beat the Harry Skelton horse in second. You had the likes of Ante. Doddy the Great finishing fourth, I thought was really good. I was quite happy to see that. what your overall takeaways for the Betfair Hurdle, and any clues towards the festival with any of these?
In terms of the winner, I think he'd have a chance at Cheltenham in a Coral Cup. I think he needs to go up and trip. I think that's where your improvement will kind of unlock from.
Mhm.
Nico de Boyle will give him a good ride, a bit like the Greatwood again, where he won that. He was kind of smuggled mid to rear div down the inside, where he found a better ground and stayed on really well to win. I think he likes a bit of soft ground. I think normal ground would be fine, but I think where he would improve is going up and trip. So I would rather back him at a Coral Cup at eights than County Hurdle at eights. That's for sure. The second is a bit exposed. I think maybe pins the form down a little bit, but in the Skeltons, they haven't had a great season, but they do really well on targeting one for a big handicap like that, and that seemed to be the one that day. And Doddy the Great, maybe in a Martin Pipe. I don't think he can get into a Coral Cup at 132, but I think he's crying out for a trip. I know the Scottish Amateur Hurdle was the ultimate goal for his kind of Scottish connections and stuff. I just don't think he's quick enough for that now. I think he needs to go up and trip, and Martin Pipe might be the only race he can get into realistically. At Cheltenham 132, be cutting it really fine for most Coral Cups. Yeah, it was the two Henderson runners to me that caught the eye the most there. It was a decent enough handicap. I don't think it's the strongest Betfair hurdle in the world.
Altobelli's jumping was just making me angry. Well, it was just so slow, and it was just like I'd done well in the first Ademi Tom and Edwardstone going on to Altobelli, and he just jumped really badly. But again, that's tough. I don't think the ground helped either, and a lot of those horses. I think obviously you might have looked at it a different day. I think the Mullins gamble I didn't think he really showed up well at all. But it was just one of those kind of Betfair hurdles
The
once
thing
a
with these
year.
horses is that they get gambled on because of the trainer's surname connections rather than of any decent kind of form. You're like, it's putting a mark on it in rough French form that nobody's seen before, and it's 41 favourite. You've got to take those type of horses on. Yeah, maybe him at up and trip. Now, he showed up well for a long way, but again, he probably wanted further. So like quite a few of them did. They were all kind of beaten off when they quickened two out. Crowd might obscure it a little bit, but there wasn't many excuses for the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into Naas. We've got a couple to mention. Allegory Devassi won the Mare's Chase over there. She's now into roughly kind of sharing second favouritism with Limerick Lace. She's about 9-2 now for the Mare's Chase. Beat Riviere de Tel before Lens Muscada was really, really poor. I thought was really outpaced. Allegory Devassi is a horse that we know the class is there, but she's got a lot of quirks that I just would worry me at Cheltenham again.
Is she back? I think that's pretty inconclusive because the front two took each other on hell for
Yeah,
leather at the start, and she just came up and picked up the pieces. And I don't think this form is anywhere near Dino Blue
I don't
standard.
think Dino will be losing sleep.
No, and I prefer the Cromwell pair of Pride Hill and Limerick Lace
Yeah,
to
probably.
Allegory Devasset. Even Willie Mullins was kind of going, the top two have taken each other on, set it up. Well, she didn't jump particularly well the first circuit. And she might be, mares can do this, they might come back in spring form, and she's a kind of reformed character, but she was outstayed in the running last year. Her form's taken a backward step since, and I don't think it's quite there yet. So
No.
she wouldn't be for me, I don't think, in a mare's chase.
We've got a Hunter's Chase to talk about. It's on the line one, but Billaway did what he did. Nearly got it done. Just came from the other side of the planet to the one. Made so much headway and just get pipped on the line. But it's on the lines now. 7-2, kind of second favourite for the Hunter's Chase. I think we were more intrigued with Billaway than we were with It's on the line.
Well, again, they went for too fast in attritional conditions, and Billoway's made up, so much ground. It's on the line actually found again when Billoway came alongside and readily won. Ramilies was absolutely legless walking over the line, which showed how hard they went. For a Hunter's Chase, it's a long way to get home doing that. It was kind of like proper graded handicap pace they were going. It was a bit insane for Hunter's Chasers, and Billoway's almost came and picked them off. That's an attritional enough race coming into Cheltenham in a month's time.
Yeah.
So maybe Billoway will improve more from it, but I think It's on the Line has a lot to offer. Stalin is his strong suit. He's found again. He's young enough to keep improving. I think he's probably just about the one to beat in the Hunter Chase. It's a bit too early to get involved. Don't really know kind of the full makeup of the field of, what outsiders coming in are going to this route yet. But if it was tomorrow, I would probably side with it's on the line.
There's a couple of interesting names when you look at the Hunters Chase market. You've got Sam Crow in there. You've
Sam
got the
Crow won't
likes of,
stay.
but why is he even?
Absolutely no chance of staying that trip.
You just think though with the owners and things, they'll maybe try and just go there, and he'll get backed off the
Try all
boards.
they like.
Simply the bets is in there. The bosses Oscar. There's a couple of interesting ones. Like if you just were to look at the Hunters Chase, I don't really look at the Hunters Chase anymore until I've fallen for the David Christie horse way too often. I'm going to just leave that until the day. To be honest, I think that's one of the races.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of stamina, is it? I mean, it's on the line, Billaway. They stay. It's really important, and quite a few of them shape quite well, and then they go to entry, maybe a bit better ground and back and trip, and they're a little bit better. And I think Ferns Lock's probably an entry type, looking at things. And the 1-2 from last year look probably the 1-2 again. At Prime Magic at 10 sits on the line 7-2 seems a little bit disparaging. I would probably be looking at those two. Prime Magics came back and won and looked fine, and it's on the lines. It's got high class pointing form all season really. So
Yeah,
they're the two to beat. Sam Crow, I don't think he's going to get home in a race like that.
hilarious if he won. But we'll move into Exeter. Fun for Willie Mullins beat Favour and Fortune at Exeter. Fun jumped a bit too much to her right for my liking. I don't think she's in the class of the top three in the market and the Mayor's Novice. I think she's possibly one for that Fairy House Grade 1. I think I would have her
That's
for
what
this.
Willie Mullins was intimating, that she was one that would stay at home. Yeah, the weight pull on the ground enabled her to beat Favour and Fortune. Who seems to be taking his chance in the Supreme
Yeah,
Continental
quite
King
right, yeah.
on better ground. Why not? Might as well. Because it could be a race that could cut up. Because in the top three of the exchanges, there is a big gap from third to fourth favourite there. So yeah, better ground. He might run a bit better. Fun. Toughed it out quite well again. Stamina, she's not quite settling yet either. So I don't think Shelton would play her strengths yet. So I think it's probably sensible to keep her at home.
Yeah, we'll move into the bumper at Exeter. It was won by a very much a talking horse for the future in T-Shan for Paul Nichols. Won a point to point, I believe, with 47 lengths, and now obviously got off the mark in a flat race. Nice horse, you can tell obviously the future's bright. Now about 6-1 for the bumper. I don't think I'll be backing him for a champion bumper, but probably one I would probably give you, Calum, 8-15 for the Charlo Hurdle next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's Captain Teague Mark 2, isn't it? Where he ran into a place in the bumper third, and
I'm trying to go with him.
Paul Nichols seemed to be tempted by it. I think when you win a race like that in nature and you see a quite open champion bumper, I think the temptation's probably too much not to go for it. He was introduced in the market quite quickly enough. Like a lot of these horses, the 20s goes 16s, 14s, 12s, 10s, and then it runs and then wins, and then it's 5s and 6s. It's all a bit mad, really. But you just have no idea what he's beating in behind. It looked an ordinary enough race. He's torn it apart. He wasn't that strong in the ring off the off, but I mean, he's done it. He's done it really, really well. It's pretty effortless. But he's a point to point buy. He's only in one run. Even chasing is probably going to be his game later down the line. So they will be mindful of him. But yeah, he definitely looked the real deal again. It's just you don't really know how relevant the form is until they meet each other in the bumper and how strong they are in the market. But I mean, you're going to get Harry Cobbins probably going to be bored. You're going to get at least that kind of security there. So yeah, he'd have a chance. He's a bit short now, but he's another one of like several that are sub 10, 12-1 that are of interest. It seemed to be going there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll move into Navan, 4 to talk about. We'll start with the Apples Jade Mares Novice Hurdle. Very impressive again from Brighter Days Ahead. She did it very well. I thought obviously over further than she'll do in the Mares Novice at Cheltenham, so that'll be interesting. But I think in terms of a performance, it's probably been her best so far.
Yeah, it's a lovely little float up, isn't it? I mean, it's over 2 mile 5. The trip coming back and trip back drastically might be a bit of a worry, but the connections hold on really high
Yeah.
regard. As a mare's novice prospect anyway. Um, Cheltenham test, the hill. It's no negative, is it? Really coming back. If anything, that might be a bit of a plus. And she's done it well. It was just a nice float up for that. Should keep her ticking over. And you've got 3 really good mares at the top of that market now. It looks kind of a properly good renewal. So yeah, and there'll be others coming out the woodwork that will kind of try him out in each way challenge. So it's a very good race, but it's the way they kind of talk about her that's more impressive than anything. But she was entitled to do that in the form. The last day, she got some decent form in the book beforehand as well. But yeah, that just confirms the impression that she's in a rich vein of form.
The Boyne Hurdle was won by Rob Coor's Hidden Valley Lake, and Rob Coor hold all the aces in the staying division in Ireland in particular. There's obviously a few things to get into. Hidden Valley Lake obviously was good. You get the likes of Galvin and Delta Work obviously by a marker. Stairs Hurdle winner Sire the Belly was beaten 24.5 lengths, but you would probably say that Sire the Belly could probably run his race at the festival again if they win. So it's an
Yeah, it's
interesting race to
2 mile 5.
analyse.
Yeah, it's 2 mile 5 as well. So I mean, in Valley Lake, maybe Coral Cup.
Mm,
You go there. He's got a bit of pace, a bit of class, bit of untapped potentials coming. Found out in Albert Bartlett a little bit last day, probably too novice for that, a bit too much too soon for him. But there was good money for him. He was down the day, and he was the one back in confidence. But you've got kind of exposed kind of veterans in behind that probably don't have this race in mind. Starting Blazing Cal's bombed out, defibrillating heart. Apparently, he's out for the rest
yeah.
of the season. You'd be surprised if you kind of saw him again, to be honest. And he was quite a week before the off. So in Valley Lake, kind of jumped quite well, picked up the pieces and runs well. Coral Cup, he might have a shout there. I think he's got too much to find going up in proper Grade 1 contests. I thought Galvin shaped better than Delta Work. With ground that's too heavy, he was kind of rallying pretty decently. I would have taken more positives out of him for the cross country rather than Delta Work and Saturday Belly. He did that last year and won the year
Yeah.
before, so I wasn't too dogmatic about him. The trip's too short for him anyway, so yeah, wouldn't be surprised, but I would be equally kind of surprised if he was able to kind of hold his form and be relevant come Mark's time. But they need to seriously go a serious gallop for him to stay in it.
The 10 up novice chase was won by American Knight, beat Nick Rocket. Weird race, obviously. American Mike had a weird run here, obviously. Made a few mistakes, pecked a couple of times, and somehow managed to get it done. Nick Rocket, I was just reading Willie Mullins Stable Tour. He's not qualified for the National Hunt Chase, so that is that out the window because they said they won't go anywhere before then. It's a tough race to analyse, I would say. I just don't know. I don't think American Mike's putting up trees, and I think Nick Rocket, I wouldn't have backed him for anything other than the National Hunt Chase.
An interesting one because Gordon Elliott muted the Irish national for American Mike. Now, I mean, he alluded it to last week. It wouldn't surprise me if he won. He doesn't run 2 races alike. He had a bad one before that, and then he's going back to form. He just wants heavy ground.
Yeah.
He just wants the ground to kind of hold people off. So Cheltenham, I don't think would suit him and keep him back for Irish national, which is usually running a bog, which usually goes to novices. Yeah, and it's like it's worth like 400 grand compared to like a novice chase over here that would be worth a quarter. So definitely try and keep him fresh and unexposed for an Irish national. I think it'd be quite interesting there. Nick Rocket, he didn't jump well in the first circuit, and he got a bit behind. Yeah, the pace was hot enough up top. You can see why he kind of backed off it because Manila Kakuna was taking him on from quite quickly at the start.
Been so
I just thought he
disappointed
was
in Elika Cooner. I thought he'd be a staying chaser. Like,
he,
just,
he can't run 2 races alike though. I mean, it's a bit like American Mike in reverse, where he can't back it up when he does it. So yeah, and Willie Mullin said he won't go to Cheltenham either because he'd get far too worked up and buzzy, and that's what he did there. He ran away with Danny Mullins too often, and he's just just a very fragile kind of type. He's not reliable. An American Mike isn't, but he runs the kind of odd race that means it's fine, and the more attritional for him, the better. Nick Rocket was just generally disappointing. I thought he was a bit better than that. He might have just found his level and been, not quite good enough.
Yeah, I think that's the conclusion I've come to. I think the National Hunt Chase that's wide open, and I don't fancy the favourite. I would have said, right, absolutely, he could go there, and you could put somebody on board. Like, it would have been fine, but he's not going to qualify, so he could be one that just kept saying they might be kind of one that you might see in the future, kind of in these kind of big handicaps. But again, I expected more of him. I thought he was a really exciting horse this season, but I just think I expected more. Navan, the final race we'll talk about is the bumper. It was won by Cantico and the Galloping de Champs Tully colours. Really nice performance. Again, this is a horse that probably threatened to really push on. Was third in a bumper at Christmas behind a Martin Brazel horse. Made a good account of himself on Sunday. I just don't know if they'll go bumper because he hasn't mentioned it.
Yeah, he's prominent enough in the bumper market, suggests that he might. He's got a bit more experience than others. I think they're probably inclined to go again. He's another one that you wouldn't categorically rule out. His main bumper hope seems to be Jasmine du Toit, and I think he's planning to run another 3, whoever they are. It's anyone's guess. You ought to know will go as well. So there's 2. There'll probably be another couple on the boat, but again, he's probably still kind of figuring out what his best options are and how to kind of attack the race. Yeah, he's got a bit of experience. He'll be fine. He's not just going to come in with one run under his belt, which is hard to do in champion bumpers. He's an each way player. I don't think he's top of my list, but at this point, but if he's entitled to take his chance, and any Willie Mullins runner will get the respect it deserves.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of horses to mention on Tuesday. Obviously, we'll start with Thurles. Zana here beat Aspire Tower in the beginner's chase. Again, Zana here, he's franked the fact to file form. Didn't jump well enough. Aspire Tower, I know you were keen on for this race. I just think with Zana here that they've obviously tried fences this year. He's got a couple of entries. He's got a couple of entries in likes of the Arkle. He's in the Champion Hurdle as well, and he's also in the Turners. He might be one that just kind of could hit a frame in something, but he's not entering any calculations for me.
No, chasing seemed like an afterthought, didn't it? He was second, first day behind fact to file. Didn't look natural. Again, his jumping wasn't greatest, but he's just outstayed Aspire Tower up the running a little bit, and he's hung on in there well enough to kind of fend him off. And he should. He has a better horse on the flat and things like that. And yeah, if the Champion Hurdle seriously cut up, they might just keep him in there and maybe try and get third or fourth again. But the fences, American Mike still could go Turners. He could as well. It seems to me a little bit kind of, that's a bit late in the day for him to kind of enter Cheltenham Festival equations for me. So, but he's got options, so I'll be interested to see where he turns up if he does.
And you were at our local course on Tuesday. You were at Ayr, a treble for Lucinda Russell, but I understand the one that caught your eye was not one of the winners.
Oh, Mayertown was the 17 runner maiden. Mayertown was going to a paddock. You're trying to look at what horse it is, and it was him that stood out immediately, even in a race of that nature. And he was ridiculously keen early on, very fresh up front, but he was pinging absolutely everything. It was hoisting your mark too, and he was asked for a big one at the last and unnecessarily, and he just dived at it. The sun was coming down a little bit lower as well, the far side, so I just wondered if that kind of caught his eye a little bit and distracted him. But yeah, I thought he was going to power away from a decent yardstick and present Scotty over the last, and he looked a serious animal. So he might be the safest horse down the line, but that Form's Yard was quite. They've not been fire all season, but there was a feeling that this was maybe the meeting that could spark a kind of revival into spring. It's kind of normally where they come alive a little bit, and quite a lot of owners and trainer was there and things like that, which is usually just a good sign. But yeah, Nettie well jumped really well, but in winning, the mare in the first was pretty good. And yeah, she reminded me a lot of kind of Apple Away in a sense as well. The mare in the first, it was pretty impressive stuff all round, and they were even winning with the kind of the second, third strings by the tail end of it sometimes. So yeah, Apple Away and a hoist in your run this weekend, so that might be a bit of a boost for them the weekend, because the yard seem to have turned a corner if Tuesday's evidence was nothing to go by.
So add Town to your notebook, folks, because that is as much of a selling point as you can get. Because I'm backing Town in the Sefton just off the back of that, and I didn't even see it.
Well, as long as he's okay after that, he did get up. He did get up fine, and so did Derek Fox. So just be kind of mindful of any updates. But I was till the last. It was very impressive.
Brilliant. Right, we'll move into what's coming up this weekend. Calum, this is always probably our last kind of big weekend of Cheltenham Clues before kind of things quieten down and preparations are in order for the season. But we'll start with a busy day regardless. We've got obviously I really like this meeting. I've always liked this weekend in terms of how busy it is. We'll start at the 150 at Ascot as the Edwardstone Novices Chase, and the aforementioned Lucinda Russell has Apple Away in this. She has 5-4. Brave Kingdom from the Nichols team at 11-4. You've got Kilbeg King for Anthony Honeyball at 7-2. Quite an open race, obviously. Apple Away gets the weight allowance she gets. I think £5, I think she's getting from the other two in the market. I think she's probably got enough here to win this.
Yes, again, the yard form, it's coming at the boil, and she's well in here in the weights. Just whether she wants a little bit of a trip. I would really like in a Scottish National, for instance, off a similar mark. Brief Kingdom, my Ultima horse, needs to run here to qualify for that. Probably needs to run fairly well to get a nudge up, maybe into the 140s, just to be categorically safe. But I kind of thought he might run here, and I think he's got a chance. I think 3-1 against 64 isn't too bad. I think it's definitely between those two. And yeah, I think they're quite hard to split.
We'll move into the 225. It is the Thoroughbred Industry Employees Handicap Hurdle. Some good runners in here. You've got Irish Hill, rare addition in there for Harry Cobden. You've got Highland, obviously a horse you like for the Pertemps. I think I've got a strong fancy here in the Skelton horse, JJ Riley. I think obviously they've tried both fences and hurdles. I think 139 is quite a good mark for him off hurdles. Obviously, it's £3 higher than his chase mark, but I think this is doable. I think that is obviously a decent horse. Maybe not at the best form this season, but had a good win a couple of weeks ago at Kempton, beating Neiman Lion. So I think 9-1 for JJ Riley. I'm going to play him each way.
Yeah, won the Lanzarote, which is a similar race to this, and only up 7 for that, which isn't too bad. If the ground stops drying out, I think Bad's quite interesting for low weight, because he's been crying up for a step up and trip here. He gets it at last. He was a big plunge in the Boodles with Ben Pauling last year.
Blackmore was
massive.
riding them, if I'm right.
And he's been third, second, third last 3 times, shaping each time as if he needs 2.5 miles. He's off a featherweight here. I think he's interesting again each way. The yard are going great guns with kind of their younger horses as well now. So yeah, him off a lower weight, I think is quite interesting at 9s.
We've got the 3 o'clock. We've got the Injured Jockeys Funds, Swinley Handicap Chase, and we have an exciting field here. You've got 3 under through 5, Victorino, Iron Bridge, Rebels Hill. We've got Shan Blue in there as well. I probably would side with Victorino. Obviously, I think the age is on his side. I think there's a decent. I think there's been decent form this season. Obviously, had 2 wins and then was 7th in the handicap at Cheltenham behind Garlaw, where he didn't really jump well enough. I think 92 is probably another good price. I'd probably go with him. Where do you kind of lean here?
Yeah, I would incline to agree with that, because I think back at Ascot's a big plus for him, and back to 3 miles a big plus. So I think he's kind of still a young kind of improving upcomer at 146 is no gimme. I thought Shan Blue shaped pretty well at Ascot the last day as well, and him going up and trip is a decent idea. 143 is an eminently workable mark for him. He's 10, but there is kind of hope there, as long as his breathing holds up a little bit. So they were the two that I were looking at.
Right, we've got the Grade 1 Ascot Chase and Lahon Press leads the market 8-13, obviously dropping back in trip to 2.5. You've got Pic Dory, obviously an Ascot specialist. Ahoy Senor in there, 11-2. This is interesting, Lahon Press. This is the road they're going down before the Gold Cup.
Yeah, that was the plan after Lingfield. I don't like it. I think it's a massive lay for me at 4-6.
Yeah,
And you have Pic Dory and Ahoy Senor running for you against him. Drying ground, shorter trip. We know what he did going right-handed at Kempton, the King George, where he was, all at sea for long spell. It's a testament to his class. He was still in there pitching. He could bounce as well after running big from a long layoff. Screams to me avoid, and this is kind of Pic Dory's race, isn't it? Cup final, 2 mile 5 around Ascot, right-handed, ping, ping, ping. No Banbridge to worry about. And a Ahoy Senor with a yard in decent form, and they're lining up the Ryanair with him, and it's his kind of time of the season, and he's going to put pressure on him as well up there. So it's a 4-run race. He can dominate. I think he might bowl along, and he had a valid excuse the last day when the stirrup broke, so he can't do much there. Just take those two on with the home press all day long.
Yeah, I don't really see a kind of Lahon Press at a shorter trip, as you say, right-handed at 8-13. I'm just it's probably a race I would leave alone for the time being, but I might see probably the one I would say probably Pic Dory's probably more inclined to win, obviously considering his record at Ascot. I think that's a race I would leave alone anyway. But hey, Doc, there's a couple of interesting races. We've got the Rendlesham Hurdle, Botox Haas 9-4, Butch for Ollie Murphy at 5-2, Red Risk 3-1, Sounds Russian 9-2. Decent wee race here. I think Butch. I would probably say Butch is the improver here. He's done it in heavy ground. Looked really obviously beat the horse that Charlie Deutsch was on at New Year's Day and done it in heavy ground. I think he's only again won 4 of his last 5. I think Butch is a good bet here.
Yeah, I quite like him. Springwell B was 4th that day as well, and he's kind of putting a 5 per tilt's chance. Him, yeah, he's a young one, unexposed one against a pretty ornery field, and Ollie Murphy's yard are in good form, and they do quite well in races like these. He's had 2 very good wins at Cheltenham this season in novice company, but he's done it fairly admirably and looked better. And he's at home in bad ground, so yeah, 11-4 for him. It's fine for me.
We've got the Grand National Trial as well, and at 3:15, you've got Iron Bridge, Credo, My Silver Lining, Famous Bridge, obviously in the Hemmings colours. I like Highland Hunter for Fergal O'Brien. Obviously, with Tom Broughton as a £7 claimer on board, we'll take £7 off. So, and basically off 138, which I think is more than workable. I think 11-year-old, obviously, he's got experience in his side. We're probably going to see some sort of heavy ground. It's obviously 3.5. I think Highland Hunter at 10-1. I'm going to play him each way. All his forms in kind of softer ground, so I would say that's probably second in the Welsh National a couple of years ago. Behind I Will Do It actually, where while he was at Nichols, went to Fergal O'Brien and has just kept his form on soft ground. So I'm going to play him at 10-1.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Man.
Okay.
Cromwell horse coming over. Just younger legs were unexposed. Second last, he was a step in that direction. Fell when he looked like he was going to win, and then second beforehand, he's very consistent. Going up and trip here in heavy ground is exactly kind of what he kind of wants. 14 kilometres isn't without a chance, either at 16s. He's kind of interesting, and obviously the Hemmings horses are well respected. Snipe would have a squeak if his win kind of holds out as well. So there's plenty of options in this race. I was leaning towards the Irish rider.
Okay, there is a grade 2 at 4:25. It's the Albert Bartlett. Nobbs has heard some one in the past by Hillcrest. I don't have any prices yet, but I see the likes of Isaac Dezobo in there. Late Night Pass I see in there as well, which is Rams de Tay vibes for me in that race. So I think that's a race we'd probably leave alone. But we have the race up in Canton, the Kingwell, obviously been won in the past by Goshen. You've got Goshen in there, Rubaugh, Colonel Mustard, Guards of Dreams, Neiman Lion. Where do you stand here?
It's a horrible race, isn't it? I mean,
It is, yeah. Rubo would probably need to win to be kind of
you'd
considered
be
a,
all over Rubo here if it wasn't
yeah,
soft.
yeah.
That's the kind of problem, and I'm leaning towards Colonel Muscle
Okay.
and that fact of, like, solid, reliable kind of type. Yeah, he can get beat. He tends to kind of get chinned a little bit. I think the main line once further these days. Gosh, and you went back with stolen money and gather your dreams is it's just shown nothing for too long now. Um, you wouldn't categorically rule anything out with utmost confidence. Rubo might have enough class to win, but I'm just not quite sure whether he's going to be in love with this ground a little bit. And maybe the last two runs have actually been a little bit backward steps and find his level. He's short enough enemy at 5-4. I would maybe roll the dice with Colonel Muscle, but he sometimes doesn't battle, so that would give the main line a chance. But I would be looking at Colonel Muscle in the main line against the favourite for sure.
We will move into the final part of the show, our anti-post selections. Calum, we both get one each this week. We will do a kind of anti-post recap in next week's show where we'll kind of look at our horses so far. I'll get them up on the graphic next week and we'll have a kind of good dissection of where our horses are at. But where is your anti-post pick this week?
In the Grand Annual, 12-1, non-runnable bet. And it's Douglas talking, Lucinda Russell's.
Very good. It's a Lucinda Russell day today.
It is indeed. It's not the festival without having one of us up. I don't know if this is planned. I've never beat Cheltenham before, but he's been away all season, marked out for a spring campaign, second in the Red Rum behind Dancing on My Own, who won on reappearance of a higher weight at Cheltenham this season, a similar kind of 2 mile run handicap. Big effort in second when beaten just over 2 lengths by Dino Blue at Punchestown of a handicap. Now she's rated 159. Dancing Alone at 155. This fella's only went up 6 and was a 141. That's a dangerously decent mark for a kind of a horse that jumps pretty well in the main. He jumped a bit out to his right, gun back left-handed, I think, would suit. But the Grand Daniel's in this turning old course now, it's important to be fairly handy and prominent and keep your position. It favours speed horses more now than it usually did. And going through that field, I know it's early days, but there isn't a lot of natural pace there. There's a lot of these that you'd rather see running the plate than here, and with bits to prove. And just think, him off 141, he would sneak in. You're taking well-being and trust a little bit, but they are usually ready them out well for spring regardless. So the layoff wouldn't concern me, because I mean it'd be like 2 mile handicaps in the spring would be the target anyway. He's definitely a 2 miler, so you don't need to worry about whether he's going to go plate or elsewhere. You take the non-runnable bet in case he turns up, or it doesn't turn up, or he waits for injury again, or something like that. But I mean, he's quick, he's accurate. His last two seconds have been very good against horses that have won subsequently. Dino Blue's only lost out to El Fabiolo since. He's the best 2 mile chaser in the land. So yeah, I know he was getting a stone, but it was still a very, very good effort, and he's well in on those two efforts regardless. So yeah, I mean, I think I think he ticks a lot of boxes for a yard that marked them out well in spring anyway. You're taking trust a little bit with his layoff, but the non-runnable bet covers that, and I think there's a lack of pace in this race, overall complexion of it, and he could take advantage of it. So I think he'd give you a good spin near the front for a long way at best if he takes his chance. So yeah, Douglas talking for the Grand Annual.
No, I really like it. I think it's a really good call. I said last week, my closing statement last week was I'm going to find the winner of the champion bumper. I found one, but I'm not alone. I thought I was going to have a wee bit of shrewdity to this, but there was an entry for a bumper on Sunday in Ireland with the Rich Richie colours by the name of Port Julan. I think how you pronounce it. Sorry to end if I'm wrong there. Entered on Sunday, a 300 grand point-to-point winner, bought by the Richies. Entered in a race that has produced the last two winners of the race for Willie Mullins have been James's Gate, who went on to be third in the bumper, and Ballyburn, who, if you remember, Callum, after that race, there was a lot of talk that he should have went for the bumper. And I think if you asked the Mullins team, I think they would probably have said he could have won the bumper last year. So I'm going to take it and trust that this horse is, again, we don't know enough about him. He's won a point to point. I think just with connections, though, and the fact that they don't really have a bumper horse and they don't have a lot of firepower going into the festival compared to usual years. They've got Lossiemouth, Gaelic Warrior's been quite disappointing. I don't think they've much else in the way of firepower, and they always love a day out at the festival. I think Port Gilles, if he was to be impressive on Sunday, will go to the bumper. He's 14-1 just now. I think you might get half that if he bolts up because of obviously connections. It's a Willie Mullins horse. I still don't think he's got a proper number one yet. I don't think there was chat of Maureen going, Jasmine DeVoe's obviously there, Yacht and O. There's a few there. I don't think they're absolutely tip top. I think this boy could be tip top if you go by his point to point, watch his point to point. They always seem to want to have something in their radar. I think 14-1 right now. I thought I was going to get a little bit more, but in terms of an open bumper where nothing at all is jumping out to me, I'm going to take a gamble here. 14-1, non-runner, no bet. Worst it happens, I get my money back. Best it happens, he could go and win the bumper at 14-1. And it's just gambling. And that is where Ante Post should be. We should be doing this, but the prices are rotten. 14-1 is probably as cautious as you'll get. I'm going to just take it because I can't find much else in the bumper. I thought a couple of each-way players. I thought potentially the horse that was quite nice, Kingston Pride, was maybe an each-way player, but I'm going to just take a gamble that Port Gilles could be a special horse and we might see him win the bumper. And that's really where I'm at.
Yeah. The Richie factor, I think, is a plus in that because I think you'd be more inclined to go rather than not go if it all goes to plan. I mean, Willie Mullins stable too. I've just not really seen him mentioned at all. But that doesn't mean that he won't go. So yeah, and expensive price tag means they might be keen to kind of go in a little bit with him. But it's everything's kind of like up there. 10-1 or Shortland, you could make a case for any of them. So it's a race that I'm increasingly inclined to leave alone till probably the week before or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's, as I say, it's a complete shot in the dark. It's something that I think a few people have cottoned on to it already, but we'll see what happens. As I say, we might be on here next week. It could be the most impressive bumper winner we've seen, and I could be sitting in a golden ticket, and hopefully the viewers are as well. But we're going to wrap up the show there. Callum, thanks very much as always, mate. We'll see you again next week.
Yep, thanks again.
Brilliant. Thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in. I will see you next week for a new episode. Thank you very much, folks.